We've probably all been there before, where we have looked through Pinterest or done a quick Google search on planner spreads or Bujo layouts, and you've just thought, wow, these are absolutely gorgeous, but my handwriting's not quite at that standard. I'm here to tell you today you don't need beautiful handwriting to be able to do these beautiful cursive headings. I'm just going to show you a few simple techniques on how you can easily do this with just a little bit of practice. The first thing is we're going to talk about the pens or markers that you might use. Now here I have just a standard ballpoint pen. You could absolutely use this. You're probably not going to get as nice a result as if you used a different marker, but you could use this if this is all that you had. One thing I will say is you want to try and stay clear of anything that's got a wedge tip. This is great for if you're doing a different kind of lettering, because you can actually use the wedge tip to have larger and thinner parts of the pen depending on how you are writing. But that's not what we're going through today. The other pen that I will say that you want to try and avoid are brush tip pens for this one. I actually love using brush tip pens normally, but when you're doing lettering, it is actually a more flexible nib. So what that means is that it's actually going to move as you press down on it. And what we want to have with this lettering that I'm going to be showing you is control, because you can use the pen to make those kind of thinner and wider brush strokes, but that is a little bit of a learning curve to be able to do that nicely. So the way that I'm going to show you is kind of like how you would do it with a brush pen, but without actually needing the skill to learn your pressure adjustment to use a brush pen. That's where these markers come in. So these ones, I've got two in different sizes. You've just got like a standard marker nib, and of course I've got like a felt tip. This just is dependent on how thin or thick you want those smaller lines. So however thin, at the thinnest point you want your lines, that's the pen you should choose. So if, for example, I used this felt tip pen, it means that my thinnest line is going to be kind of this thickness. Whereas if I was to use the other pen, I've got a slightly thicker line for that base line. Again, completely up to you as to which one you're going to use. I'm just going to show you with the felt tip pen to begin with, because then you'll have kind of the same thickness as if you were using, same with a ballpoint pen. All right, now that we understand the pens and markers that we can use, let's get into actually building out the title. So I think there are actually two really important things when you're starting out with lettering, and that is your type of paper. You can see here that it's actually a grid made up of dots. You can also use a dot grid paper, anything that will kind of have these guide markings so that you know that you're going to be getting the correct sizing for each of your letters. The second thing is, don't be afraid to go in with pencil first. Most artists, when they are doing some kind of like drawing or any other art form, will go in sketching first and then we'll ink later. The same thing with lettering. Doesn't mean that you have to go in with your pen. Once you get confident with it, you can absolutely do that because it will save you time. But in the beginning, you can actually sketch things out with a pencil. So what I mean by that is, let's say I'm going to write the word May. So if I'm going to write the word May, I need the letter M-A-Y. So first off, I'm going to decide how big I want my letters. So generally I might sketch out a block to start with, and then that is where I would begin my lettering. This can be any kind of font that you want. What I will say, if you are doing the kind of like typical cursive type font that you see in a lot of planner spreads, it is common to actually start with a line and then go into your lettering from there. Because we are doing May, we're going to go in with an M. So we just go down. Now you could go directly up, but with this style of lettering, you actually kind of leave a gap in here. Same with your letters, you go all the way down and you leave a gap. Now, completely your choice here, we can stay on the line. Sometimes though, you can drop below the line to bring it up. This is purely aesthetic. You might also want to, even if you're dropping the line down here, you may want to bring the line up further up here. This is all kind of a personal preference thing, and there's no kind of like hard and fast rules about it. So from here, most cursive, when you're actually writing it, you would directly move into that second letter. But the way that this style kind of works is that this is purely like a connector. And we're going to start on this same line and we're going to come down and just meet where that line is. Now you can see here, I don't really like how far away that A is from the M. So I'm just going to erase it and I'm going to move one more square in. So now I've moved that one more square in. You can see that my letter runs into this. We can adjust that as we go as well, so you could take that one out. Adjust as needed. And then we're going to go into our final letter, which is Y. I want to try and make sure that these are on consistent angles, because it'll just bring kind of like a consistency and a nice look to my lettering. All right, my final letter is a Y, so I'm going to, again, start up on near that same line. I want to make sure I'm connecting with my previous letter. And this time I'm going to come kind of all the way down and around. Now, because we're kind of coming off to the side with this one, I'm also going to do the same with this one and just flow off into it. Now I wanted to show the word may because the M's and N's in this kind of font style can be a little bit different. And what I mean by that is you can actually change the height of the different points here. So I'll just give you an example. So instead of having them all uniform where the A and the Y are, you may choose to bring the top of the M up higher and the second one not as high. This just brings some movement to your lettering. And as you can see, my M, A, and Y are all kind of along that same line. If I did want to make this a capital letter, capital letters are a little bit too sharp in this kind of cursive writing. So we're going to treat this as a capital letter, which means that these ones are a little bit too large. So all that means is I'm going to drop it down just by a little bit. So as you can see here, it actually looks much nicer now. I don't actually have to go as low with this point as well, because I kind of want to show that movement. Okay, and you can keep sketching until you're happy with what you've got. You might think that loop in the Y isn't as nice as you want it to be. It's a little bit too high, so we might go there. But pretty much once you are happy with your lettering, we're then going to go in with our first inking. What I mean when I say our first inking is we're literally just going to trace these lines that we've already made. Now, I try and make this as nice and flowy as I can, but I do want to try and make it so that, yeah, I'm not starting anywhere. So I come in from the side and I just trace those lines. I can stop when I get to the letter, because as I said, we're not continuing on like we would normal cursive, we're just kind of running into those letters. Okay, so now I've got my letters with my initial inking. Now I'm going to go through probably the most important rule in building out your letters so that they're that really nice cursive. and that is peaks and troughs. So when I talk about peaks and troughs, I'm talking about this kind of like upwards, downwards motion. You want to try and think of it as if you were a person and you're walking up a hill, you're going to be much slower as you go up. And then as you come down, you're going to be much faster. So because we're going faster on the downward, that actually means that the line gets thicker. And then as we struggle up the hill, our line gets thinner. So the same thing is going to happen here in our peaks and troughs. So if I've got the letter A, for example, when we're coming down, we want it to be much thicker. So we're going to thicken that out. And then as we travel up, that's when it will thin out. And then again, on the downward is where it would thicken out. And so now I've got these shapes in there, I can literally just color them in. So you can kind of see where it narrows at those points where we're climbing up, and I've got them thicker as I'm going down. So again, same when I go to connect to that next letter, it's an upward. So I keep it nice and thin. You can kind of curve these ones out a little bit more into it, but you want to kind of keep it as thin as you can on those upward inclines. And then again, if I was doing my Y, this is where I'm going down, and you can see I haven't quite connected here, and I'm above the line here. So I'm going to be strategic with where I put my thicker lines. So I'm going to thicken it out so that I connect with the A, because I'm coming downwards. And then I come upward, and you can see I've built it out on that bottom line. So now that means I've got this downward, and I'm just coloring in, and then I again go thin as I'm going up, and then I am going to want to drop. Now if I was to color in this side, I'm going to lose some of this kind of upward thinning of the letter, so I choose to go my downward on this side here. And I'm not going to go thick from the very start. I'll kind of make it only a little bit through that center part where that speed is coming down. And then again, as we're going around this loop, that's when it would thin out all the way up to the top. Now I could make some of the speed travel through that loop, because if you think about a roller coaster, you would carry on some of that momentum into that loop. So I'm going to bring some in. So as you can see, that's like the basis of the lettering. You can practice as much as you want on scrap bits of paper. The thing I love about Discbound is I can just pull these bits of paper in and out. So even if, for example, I did this one and I really didn't like it, at least I have the option to take it out. But we're here, so I'm going to continue with this one. So same rule applies. So we've gone up, so we're climbing to the peak, and then we're going to drop down. I want to keep this gap as much as possible, so I'm going to thicken on the outside here. I'm actually going to thicken it all, and then I will go back in it and color just so that you can see the outlines. So again, we're climbing, and then as we near the peak, that's when we're going to start picking up some speed. Climbing, picking up some speed. Okay, and you can see that I've kind of gone in and anywhere where I didn't really like where the letter sat, I've just corrected with where that thicker line is. I'll probably have to do a little bit more cleanup on this Y, but I generally will color it in and I'll see where I'm at, and then I can go from there. Okay, so you can see here now that I've completed my lettering. I also just do a final erase of my pencil because some of the areas like here, I don't actually know, because it's got a lot of pencil in that area. I might need to fix up a little bit, but I just go in with my finger and I just check that it's dry before I go in with my eraser. Otherwise, if I start going over with the eraser, I might actually smudge the ink if it's not fully dry. Okay, so that is now erased. I will say there are a couple of little marks, so I'm just going to go in and clean up any areas that I think just need a little bit of crisp lining. Okay, I'm happy with that lettering now. As you can see, it kind of goes off to the edge. Generally, I will make that run into something. So for example, if I wanted to just put like a flower sticker, I might position the flower sticker so that the lettering would just connect into it. And then I might just drag this one off of the page if I'm not putting like a washi tape or something down the border. Okay, because this one was a heading, I did just want to make those mounds in the M a little bit bolder. So now I am happy with this one. I just wanted to show you an instance. If you wanted to do this as like a smaller heading, you could do the same thing where you would come in with your lettering and all you would do is do this on a much smaller scale. So it's exactly the same principles. Only thing is I have made this tail up a little bit thicker on this one just because I really wanted to accentuate the capital letter for the M because it's not so clear in the sizing of them. But you can also trail that one off to wherever and trail that one off to wherever. I think this would look really nice if you were to do like a box and kind of have it running either side. Honestly, with this lettering style, you can do so many different kind of headings and you can have them as big or as small as you'd like. And as you practice more and more, you'll just get better with your lettering. Even now, like I'm not completely happy with how separate the N is from the A and the Y, but that's just something that I have to live with and I'll practice until I get better with it. And that's really all there is to it. It is quite a simple technique once you get the hang of it and you know those rules about your ups and downs. But once you have it, you can just practice it a little bit and I know that you're going to become an expert in it and you'll just be able to do it whether you're sketching first or not. If you did like the video, we'd love for you to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us understand what you want from this channel and so we can keep bringing you the videos that you love. If you had any questions or comments about the video or wanted to share something about your favorite tip or trick when it comes to lettering and titles, we would love to hear from you. So pop a comment down below and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.